In this episode of the eCom Pulse podcast, I sit down with Aggie Meroni, the founder of Whitebeat Digital, a paid social agency that also offers PPC services, specializing in helping e-commerce brands that are ready to scale. Aggie shares her unique journey from a career in investment management to launching her own digital marketing agency, driven by a passion for e-commerce, sparked by a podcast she discovered while working in the corporate world. Throughout the episode, Aggie offers practical advice on how to approach digital advertising in today's ever-changing landscape. She emphasizes the importance of understanding your customers on a deeper level, using their language in ad creatives, and testing content organically before moving into paid strategies. Aggie also discusses the significant impact of Apple's privacy updates on digital advertising and how brands can adapt to these changes by focusing on creative strategy. Listeners will gain a better understanding of how different platforms like TikTok, Pinterest, Meta, and Google Ads play distinct roles in comprehensive advertising strategy, as well as the importance of maintaining an active organic social media presence to support paid campaigns. This episode provides practical advice and strategies that can make a real difference in your marketing approach, whether you are launching your first campaign or refining your current efforts. Welcome to the eCom Pulse, your heartbeat to the world of e-commerce. I'm your host, Eitan Koter. Join us as we meet with industry leaders, marketing experts, and the innovative minds behind the tech that is shaping the e-commerce future. So plug in, gear up, and get ready for a pulse-pounding journey into the heart of e-commerce. Aggie, how are you? Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, I'm very excited to talk today about digital advertising and brand marketing. But tell us more about Whitebeat Digital, right? About your agency and what are you actually focusing on?
Sure. So Whitebeat Digital is a paid social agency which also offers PPC services. And we work predominantly with e-commerce brands that are at that stage where they're just about to start scaling. So they're very ambitious and are really focused on the goals that they're trying to achieve. So we partner with them to help them with the multi-layered advertising strategies to help them with their growth.
What brings you to digital advertising and marketing? What's your background and what inspired you to launch Whitebeat?
So I think like many people in e-commerce, when I was at school, Facebook didn't exist. And I didn't even think about e-commerce wasn't even a thing. Now that the younger generation are coming in, it is a career path. Everyone I meet, and which is why I love e-commerce, is everyone has a very wiggly way that they got into this industry. Yeah. So for me, I had a over 10 year career in sales, in investment management in London. And to be honest, I really didn't enjoy it. It was really not my thing. And I was looking for a way out for a very long time. But it's one of those things that you kind of feel like you're in a gilded cage. Your pay's good. It's hard to jump into something else and maintain your lifestyle. So it was a real struggle for me to think, what am I going to do? Because I've never really been someone that's really passionate about one thing. So I'm not one of these people that thought I'm going to be a doctor or an accountant or a vet or I need to paint every day. I've never had that drive for one thing. I'll always flip between different things. But this changed. I found my thing because when I was very unhappy in my city job, I discovered a podcast in 2017, and that was the unofficial Shopify podcast. And I absolutely became hooked. It was either 2017 or 2018, I can't remember. But I was listening to that podcast on my way to work and on the way home every day. And I was absolutely obsessed. I was like, this is insane. How is this world happening in parallel to what I'm doing? Which is if for anyone that's worked in a corporate environment in a financial institution, it's very old-fashioned, highly regulated. There isn't much innovation going on. So when I was hearing about all these people with these amazing ideas, quickly being able to action those ideas into businesses and being very successful, it's this is amazing. I need to learn more about what everyone's doing. At the time, MailChimp was the email partner for Shopify. So I was learning about how they were integrating, that and how they were generating sales with ads and all that kind of thing. And at the same time, by coincidence, I was getting more involved with digital marketing in my office. And I was like, this is my thing. I'm really interested in this. So I started like researching how I could retrain. So I found the Digital Marketing Institute, and I was like, I need to do this course. It's like really like a big leap to suddenly change your career. Then I found out I was pregnant. So I was like, okay, I'm going to stay my job at least until I have my baby. And then 6 weeks into maternity leave, I was made redundant. So I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a fist pump in the air moment. I was so relieved that I didn't have to go back to the office. And I signed up to retrain. So while I was on maternity leave, I obtained my postgraduate diploma in digital marketing. And it was actually there. It was the first time I've ever studied anything, and the time just flew. So I was like studying at 9 a.m, and by 3 o'clock, I was like, how's 6 hours gone? I was like, I've actually found what I love. I was so engrossed in learning everything I could. And then I found more about advertising during that course. And I was like, this is like magic. Like, how is it possible? You know, I was like so inquisitive about it. I just couldn't learn enough. And then when I finally graduated, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, like the whole world was falling to pieces. It's easy to look back on it now and think, well, obviously this is an amazing opportunity for digital businesses because everyone's going online. But at the time, you know, you really have to think back to that moment. Everyone's in panic. Like no one knows what's going to happen. So a lot of agencies were making all their teams redundant because they were worried all their clients would take their money away. And as someone who was a career changer in her 30s with a new family, no one was giving me a look in. They're like, no way, you're not who we need in our team. Like, it's too much of an investment for us or risk to take you on. Plus, the pay was terrible everywhere. And the incentives were like beer fridge and ping pong table. And I said, for me, it's not really what I want. Yeah, I want to finish on time so I can pick up my kid from daycare. You know, it was very different, and it really opened my eyes to how, like, not inclusive it is sometimes in the advertising industry. It's very targeted towards younger people. Even though I don't think I'm old, but it's like early 20s, that's the people that were being hunted by these agencies. So I had no choice really but to set my own business. And it was absolutely terrifying. After being in corporate for over 10 years, suddenly I was like the salesperson, the marketing person, the tech support person, actually the ads manager as well. But I haven't looked back. It's been amazing, and I would never, ever, ever work for anyone again.
Amazing.
I'm unemployable now anyway.
That's it. It's finished. Wow. Nice story. I always like, to understand how people are going into entrepreneurship and how they are, what's triggered them or what drives them to launch their own ventures and companies. So thank you for sharing that. It's really interesting. So it seems that, in terms of advertising, I mean, the brands are so focused on buttons and if they're clicking the right checkbox and if they're writing the right words. And I think you have a different view about how things needs to be done, right? In advertising.
So I'm just going to put this into context. So things have really changed since the privacy update in 2021. So Apple decided to be a not nice player in the digital world from an advertising perspective anyway, and said from now on, people are going to have the opportunity to opt out of having their data tracked if they access Facebook and Instagram via an app, because we own the app basically on Apple devices. So from that moment, by default, everyone was opted out of having their data tracked. And overnight, e-commerce collapsed, basically. It was like so many brands relied 100% on their meta advertising to survive. This was also during lockdowns. This was during the pandemic. So there were lots of businesses that had been set up, e-commerce businesses were set up by families where, the main breadwinner could no longer work because their job no longer existed because, if they'd been made redundant or the company had shut down or they couldn't physically be around people. So there was like this huge influx of e-commerce brands being set up. And the quickest way at the time was to just whack up a few ads on Facebook, and if you did it properly, you could make a lot of money, and a lot of people did. However, this privacy update happened, and obviously Meta's algorithm had to adapt, and it took time. So everyone's ads fell off a cliff, or they were still performing well, but because the way that data was presented now, it looks like they weren't performing. So agencies were being fired left, right, and centre. Brands were closing down because suddenly their revenue wasn't coming in. But before this data privacy update happened, a lot of the skill in managing ads on Meta was through the dashboard. So understanding how to target your audience well, understanding how to bid for ads and how to set things up, how to structure your campaigns. This has massively changed in 3 years. Okay. So much so that there are still brands that are asking questions about, well, what's the best targeting for my ads? What's the best campaign setup? And I was like, you are looking at this from the wrong perspective now. So obviously there are gains to be had from the optimal setup, but it isn't that complicated anymore. Once you learn, you can pretty much keep up now with what's going on, especially because AI in Meta is taking over a lot of those options for you. So targeting has been simplified. How you structure your campaigns has been simplified if you're a brand as well. So my thing that I'm banging the drum about all the time, and it's not sexy at all, but it takes a bit of work, is you really, really need to understand your customers. So I'm saying this more from like an emotionally driven perspective, like what are their aspirations, their goals, their motivations, because it's what you show in your ad creative and what you're communicating in your ad copy, which is actually used in your targeting now. Because your ads are just thrown out into Facebook or Meta, Instagram now, the AI will pick up what's in your ad, what's in your creative, and it will match with people on the platform. So in the past, Meta's algorithm wasn't as sophisticated as well. So it would know interests, and that was pretty much it. Or, maybe their demographics, or if you're in the States, how much people are earning roughly. But now they track everything. So how long you linger on an ad, if your data still tracks, obviously they can still track you if you go onto different websites. But a lot of it is behavior on the platform. Like, who are you engaging with, and everything like that. So a lot of the work we do as an agency is around creative strategy. And this is something that has boomed since the data privacy update happened 3 years ago. The advertisers or the brands that are really, really making money now with their advertising are the ones that have investment for their creatives, ad creatives. That's still what I'd call a hidden cost in advertising, because a lot of brands don't allocate enough budget for this. So you need to kind of carve out some budget for this, whether you have internal resource, so you have a team internally that can do that for you. Even if you have it internally, you still have to pay those people in your team to do the creatives or assign certain time for them in their work schedules to do that for you. Or you can partner with us, and we partner with various creative partners that are specially trained in creating ads. So creatives for social media ads are so different to any other type of design. And that's pretty much to do with how the brain works and how much information can be absorbed by the brain in less than a second, really. So we touched on this briefly, before we started recording. A lot of professional designers are trained on huge Mac screens or huge desktop screens, and they do very intricate things, or there's a lot of detail in the things that they may design. But when you see that on a tiny phone screen, a lot of that gets lost. And if the brain is overwhelmed, it won't look at the ad. So it's really important to think about, how can I simplify this and communicate the one thing I want to communicate in that split second, so that person is hooked in that second. They say 3 seconds, you have to hook someone in 3 seconds, so much so that they will click on the ad and go to your website.
Yeah.
And then it's the website that actually makes your sale, which is another thing that is sometimes overlooked. So if your ad doesn't do the job of hooking in the right people, even if you've got an amazing conversion rate on your website, you're not going to make the sale.
You're going to make the sale, yeah.
Or if you have an amazing ad that drives loads of like high quality traffic, if there's an issue with your websites, if the conversion rate isn't good, that can massively impact your results as well. So there's a lot that happens outside of the ad platform which dictates your results. So it's never a quick solution to say, I can guarantee you this return, because we have to audit everything, like the whole infrastructure of the business, to see where the gaps are or where the holes are in that process to get the sale.
Yeah. You mentioned a few things that I would like to elaborate. I'd like you to elaborate more. You said that it's very, very important for the brands to know their customers, right? And I'm sure this is very important for you, right? To do better targeting, to do better messaging, to create the entire strategy around that. But I'm sure you'll find that there are sometimes substantial gaps in brand understanding. I mean, the customer sentiment, why exactly they are, buying their products. Brands even don't know why brands are buying the products, right? So how do you bridge this gap? I mean, what are the tools or the processes you have in place to figure out what shoppers of a specific brand really feel and think about that brand?
So this really differs at different business stage. So I'd say usually, and I'm just saying this usually, it's not obviously cast iron rule, but from my experience, the smaller startups that start their advertising are much more in tune with their customers. And that's because they probably have a smaller customer base at that stage.
Okay.
Also, it's still founder-led. So the founders very much still answering direct messages. They're the ones that are, overseeing the creative strategy, organic social media strategy. If they're doing trade fairs or going to various in-person events, they're actually talking to people. So they get that first-hand feel of how the brand's hitting or what's popular or how people are feeling. As a brand grows and more employees join and there's various teams and your revenue increases, the volume of your sales increases. So the different types of customers you have probably increases as well. It can actually become harder to understand who you're selling to. So something that you can try is your post-purchase survey. So you can embed this on Shopify, and there's quite a few apps that you can embed to do that. Also, if you've got quite an engaged email list, you can send out a consumer survey, something that we've actually just done for one of our brands and got some great insights. The one thing I would say, if you're going to do that, is offer as many opportunities as possible for people to write in their own language feedback on the brand, because any words that your customers use are absolute gold for your ads. So this applies to everything from comments on your ads, reviews in your ad copy. I was speaking to a jewelry brand yesterday, and they're saying, "Oh, we had this really awful message about someone like really questioning the quality of what we sell and like the price points and things." I said, "That is brilliant." I said, "I know it hurts to get those messages, but this is an objection that you can turn around in your marketing." So the reason why we charge so much is because of this. Emphasize the quality materials, the artisanship. I don't know if that's even a word, but the kind of the expertise and the skill of the people creating the jewelry for that brand. That is all something that you can address much earlier, so you don't get those comments and those emails anymore. So I said, even the negatives can be turned around. And also your competitors' negative comments are so powerful. So if your competitor is on Amazon, go check out their reviews. All the kind of 3 and below, because there'll always be something that they're complaining about. Maybe they sell on Etsy. Maybe they're on a third-party review platform like Trustpilot. Go and check out their reviews on there. Anything that their customers are complaining about, you offer a solution to that. And I had something else I was going to say for getting feedback as well, and it's completely skipped my mind.
I think you mentioned the surveys, probably customer support tickets. I mean, and I think what you're saying is absolutely important, right? Developing this word bank that actual consumers are using and actually use this language in your creatives and your ads, right? So, I mean, it's that's an important piece of information, of database of the white words that are important in any campaign, obviously. And so you mentioned, you shared with us, like, if it's a smaller brand and it's a still founder led, so obviously is more connected to the market, to consumers, probably involved even in product development. Bigger, larger companies, they have larger teams, and it's more processed, more automatic, more mechanic type of operations. And I guess over there, it's more surveys, more special groups, maybe community building, and talk to your community and try to figure out what's working and what's not, and developing messaging accordingly. So when you onboard a new client and you try to, assuming you understood all of this, how do you go ahead and plan their let's say paid media strategy? I mean, in terms of like which platforms to use, what's relevant, budget allocation, or what's important for the success of the campaigns, regardless of what you do, right? Obviously, they do maybe organic marketing as well. So how everything is evolving at this stage?
So we have a very holistic approach to how we work with our clients. So I've done stints at agencies where they were purely focused on the advertising. And whilst we only implement advertising, it's really, really important to understand what else you have going on in the business, like from a marketing perspective, because your advertising is just one of those channels. And kind of, as I've said, you know, when brands were only advertising, they suffered or collapsed after COVID ended. Yeah. It's really important for brands to have robust marketing happening across different channels. So if we look at it, so I'm going to kind of work from a broad perspective and then narrow down to ads. So absolutely, one thing I will always check before I ever work with a brand is how active they are organically on social media. A lot of brands can sometimes take their foot off the gas a little bit when they start advertising. So they think, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm advertising, so I don't need to do organic social media. Organic social media plays a completely different role to paid advertising. Organic social media is there as your shop window for your business, so people can come and find you. It's like a trust factor. Does your social media profile reflect what I'm seeing in the ads? Does it reflect what's on your website? I'm looking at the comments, like, are people engaged in your content? Are they singing your praises? Are they tagging their friends into your posts? Also, it's where your community is. So if you're posting in your stories and you're taking them along for the ride, you know, if you're developing new products or you've got a new collaboration or this new celebrity has bought your thing and has posted about it, it's kind of like everyone is together, like rallying around this thing. They've got a joint purpose. And that kind of like a offshoot of that is community is huge when it comes to e-commerce. So Facebook groups linked to brands are huge. This is where bigger brands can actually capitalize on these communities for their product development, for the feedback, for the, you know, spreading the words, like digital word of mouth. So that is so crucial when it comes to paid social. Then you have, and that's kind of like ongoing, that's keeping people warm to your brand when they discover you and to kind of nurture them to buy. And once they've bought, to keep them warm so they buy again. Yep. Then you've got your paid media. So when I say paid media, I'm talking paid social, so your social media channels and your Google. So I see the channels working very differently. So for me, like, let's start with TikTok. TikTok is very powerful. It's kind of like one of those things where lots of brands have discovered there organically as well as in their ads. Extremely challenging to run ads if the brand does not have great video content, which probably sounds really obvious, but it's a huge barrier to brands actually advertising there because they can't repurpose content from other platforms. It has to be TikTok specific. There's also a huge skill in hooking people in on TikTok and keeping them engaged enough to visit your website. So when a brand has budget to work with content creators, or they have an incredible in-house team that just understands how TikTok works, that's when TikTok ads can work. So there's a couple of things happening on TikTok at the moment. You've got TikTok shops, so it's like QVC on TikTok, and there are great results happening for brands on there. But just from a paid perspective, what I'm seeing is more kind of low-cost items that are maybe a bit different and can be trendy or solve a problem really quickly that you can demonstrate. They can convert straight away, so purchases can happen because it's so fast. You can literally swipe and it's bought from the ad. And some agencies will build landing pages specifically for certain products when the brands are big enough and they have the budget to do this. So you can really make a lot of money quickly with the right content. We work with a brand that has an average order value of £10,000. It's like a high-end furniture company.
Yep.
They are the leader in their niche on TikTok. So they are very consistent in the content they create, and we run ads for them with similar content. Now, we know they will never get a sale from a quick, impulse buy because it is a considered purchase. People add to carts and they start checkout with us, but we've not had a tracked purchase yet. But we do have other signs that the ads work. So we get lots of visitors to the showroom, for example. And we also know, because we're running ads on other platforms for them, they're being retargeted on other platforms. So maybe they discover them on TikTok, then they purchase via Meta or Google. So, or even Pinterest, because we run Pinterest ads for them too. So I would just be really aware of what you expect from TikTok, like how much your product's worth and what content you have to adjust your expectations. The minimums to advertise on TikTok are higher as well. They're not as cheap as Meta. So if you're really, really starting out on, in your business, it might not be the one that gives you your return straight away. So after that, we've got Pinterest, which behaves completely differently again. It's like a search engine, really. Like it's kind of bundled in with social media, but it's not a social media platform. This is where you have traditionally aesthetically beautiful products. People go there for inspiration. They're planning something. Maybe they're doing mood boards for renovation or their wedding or something like that. I've found if you're in the homeware, like high-end homeware niche, gardening niche, anything that sells products for over £100, with the right strategy, you can have a lucrative experience on Pinterest. Also, the child education sector does very well because teachers, so the education sector as well as parents are looking for solutions for their own children. The place I find it struggles a little bit is for products that are very cheap because Pinterest takes a while to warm up. So I never recommend it for a startup because they need to see a return pretty quickly, or a brand that is expecting results fast. So we have like a minimum 3-month period to work with a brand, or 4 months if they're not present on TikTok yet at all, just because of the time it takes to build up the data. But you have to remember, when you're advertising to a human being. So just because they've seen your product today, if they're planning something, it's very unlikely they're buying straight away. So it's a much longer consideration window on Pinterest. So that's something you need to factor in. And it's always something I just try and remind clients of as well, like you're selling to a person. There is someone at the other end of that screen. They're not necessarily going to see your ad and buy today. You need to really warm them up to want to buy with you. They're going to see you on TikTok, Pinterest, Google, Meta, a blog, a PR mention, and then they'll decide, yes, this is what I want. I'll probably ask their friends as well. So, have you heard about this brand? What do you reckon? Do you think they're worth me spending my money with? So there's a lot of moving parts. And then Meta's next. So we're Meta first. So brands usually come to us first for Meta ads. And then we usually add other things to the strategy from there. So Meta is the biggest ad platform now. It overtook Google this year. It's so powerful, the amount of people it can reach. Still affordable for brands at all sizes, and it really does come down to your messaging and your creative now, which is what we touched on. So it can educate people about products that they had no idea existed, had no idea they needed in their lives. They had no idea they had this problem that this product solves. So it can really capture people at the early stage. But then it also has that retargeting capability, which makes it so powerful because it captures people at all stages of the buyer journey. And then Google Ads for us, I see it as kind of like a scoop. So it scoops up demand that is existing for what you sell. So people may know that they need a sun lounger. They might go off and do some research on different sun loungers, and then they'll come back when they're finally ready and probably search for sun lounger again and find the one that they've been like looking at, for example. I would say Google Ads are not great if you sell something very innovative. So if you're first to market with something, or there's something very unique about what you sell, people won't know that they need you or that you exist or what to look for, or how to search for you. So it could be a waste for you to advertise on that platform. But it's very powerful, and it usually has the highest ROAS, or return on ad spend, because of that high intent search when people are searching on Google.
Great. I really like that furniture use case, right? It's not the first product that you think when you go to TikTok, right? It's usually like cosmetics, apparel, something you can show immediate transformation, right?
Exactly.
And 30 seconds and you see the growth on the showroom, like product pages maybe on TikTok. They're not checking out on TikTok. Maybe they're checking out somewhere else. It's a great example how it's so difficult to attribute the purchase, right? I mean, maybe you see something, that is working, that is contributing to the purchase, but you cannot actually, allocate or specify what was the real impact, like quantitatively about this campaign. So that's a great example, which I like a lot, and really thank you for sharing that. And also the different use cases, right? So Meta, as I understand, if I hear you saying, is like the foundation of everything, right? Because of the reach, still prices are still reasonable, and if you do the right messaging, the right creatives, then you're probably going to hit a good success. I wanted to ask you specifically, and we all understand that organic is very important for success of paid media campaigns. But if we zoom into that specific general statement, so what it means? It means that people will convert more because they see also other aspects of your business, like in your story, maybe on Instagram, or some of your organic posts, or the visibility to the advertising itself will increase. Why the organic is an important match? I mean, in terms of the activities around the advertising campaign.
I love this question, because I just need to talk about this more, because people don't talk about this enough. So organic social media, there's a few things why it's really important. First of all, you can test your creatives and your messaging for free organically first. So when I work with brands, I will say organically, what posts have got the best engagement for you? So most comments, most shares, likes, a bit of a lesser metric, but what generated followers for you, for example, as well, what got the most reach. That is an indicator for free of what content will work in your paid social strategy. So we start there, like in an analytics perspective. Then we'll look at the comments on those posts. So why are people engaging with it? Like, what language are they using? Again, we pick out all those things, all the words from those posts. But also, I mean, the number of followers your brand has is always a bit of a taboo topic, because you can never really tell if it's genuine. Lots of brands buy followers, which I do not condone, because it messes up your ad data and your pixel data. So do not do it. But if you're around for a while and you have a significant number of followers, if people are checking out your ads, a lot of people will not click on the ad. They will not click on to go to your website. They'll click on your name, like your brand, to go to your social profile to check you out. Are you a legitimate business? Have you got quite a few posts there? So you've been going for a while. How many followers do you have? That is important. Like, people will check, because that's kind of proof to them that you're legitimate as well. It's like a trust factor. So while I don't think you need loads of followers to have a successful e-commerce brand, I do think having genuine engaged followers there does give comfort to people, and it will help you convert when they land on your page. But also, the money is made in e-commerce by repeat purchases. So once you attract people to you, and they will learn to love your brand and align with their values and sort of be, your fans, they'll buy from you once, and then your organic content is what will keep them there. So I had I had a debate with a Google Ads guy recently about this because he had overtaken the e-commerce marketing strategy for a brand that we pitched to. And he said to me, "Oh, we're going to sack the organic social media manager." I was like, "Oh, okay." Because I was saying to him how important it is for us to collaborate with the organic team. So yeah, we're just not getting the same sales as Google. What? I was like, okay, that worried me. That a PPC guy assumes that organic would contribute the same sales as Google ads because they're totally different. They've got totally different roles in the marketing strategy, and they're at different points in the buyer journey as well. So yeah, that's why I like to share that story, to say that even people that are professionals in marketing don't always understand how all the different channels work together.
Yeah. Wow. Really interesting. Really interesting. So how do you keep up with all the changes in social media algorithms and processes? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, I'm just obsessed. I think you have to be a bit crazy, honestly, to keep up, because it does change every day.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of consultancy with brands. So I do like screen shares in their ad accounts, and I help audit what might not be working. And it's often weekly when I'm doing my calls or whatever, I will log into their ad account. I was like, that's new. Like, I've never seen that before. So I said, I've heard that this is rolling out, but I've not seen it live yet. They're like, oh, really? What does it mean? So I am part of memberships that are very specific to Meta ads that helps keep me updated, but I actually manage ads myself. So I'm always in ad accounts. So I'm abreast of what's happening day to day. And I think no matter how big my agency gets, I'll always manage at least one account because it's so important to be in there to see how the changes happen. I personally manage, or I'm trained to manage, like Meta, Pinterest, and TikTok. Google, we have a separate team that manages that because I just don't think you can be an expert at everything. And it's very different how they're managed. Like, the platform's very different. So yeah, it's like a joke in the industry, really, about how much things change all the time. And yeah, it is important though to be abreast of what's happening.
What would be from your perspective, a successful campaign? I know it's obviously related to sales and ROAS and all that, but from your perspective, right? Like, maybe you can share also a successful case study that from your perspective you felt it was a good opportunity, a good campaign. You're happy with the results. Can you just share with us?
Yeah, so I can share one that's literally just happened, like a situation that happened. So I'm always reluctant to say this is successful because everything's different for every brand. So some brands are like, right, we want to increase our newsletter subscribers because then we can post in catalogs and then they will buy from the catalog in the spring or something. You know, I work with a lot of catalog businesses actually that are going digital. But one brand I've been working with since March, and they brought us on because they said we have these launches every month. It's a ceramics company, so we launch unique their drops every month, and we do very well from them, but we're capacity constrained and our revenue is so volatile because we sell the most, and it's very draining for us to have to do these launches every month. We want to stabilize our revenue. I was like, okay, let's try. Let's see what your evergreen products are, and let's run ads for those. So the ads did well, but they weren't crazy good. And I was like, there's just something not aligned here. Like, from an ads technical perspective, everything is right. Like, everything is set up perfectly. We've tested lots of different creatives and messaging. And this is another thing people give up too early when it comes to the ads. Like, you really need to test a lot to get the winners. I remember someone saying to me, like, the irony of ads is you win because you fail. And it's true, because you have to fail a lot before you find the winning ads. So I was like, right, the things that they were selling on an ad, no matter what imagery we used or video, it was too similar to things that you could buy elsewhere that were cheaper. So no matter what emotional triggers we were using, the stories we were telling, there wasn't enough of a difference for people to be like, I have to go to them to get this thing. And that was what the crux was. I had a niggle that this is what was the issue. And it isn't really something you can change from the ads. Now, I know that there'll be other agency owners that come like, I bet I could have sold it, but we really tried every angle that we could think of. Then they got this huge investment and managed to increase their capacity a lot for their more unique products that they sold regularly. So we sat down with them and we said, right, we know you've got this coming up, and we know you've got these products that are going to be coming in at huge volumes. Can we just focus on these? Because organically, that's the demand. Like, people know you for these unique drops, these designs. So we launched an advent calendar campaign for them, which was a flying success. With both organically and paid, it worked so well for them. It's like the most sales they've ever had for that product. And they launched a new thing for this season, by far the biggest seller they've ever had. They've already sold out of it once. It went on pre-order and they've started selling it again, like it went back into stock. And their revenue increased 144% in 30 days.
What?
Because they changed their product strategy. And the reason I'm sharing
just focusing on the cash cow, on the high runners.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to repeat until I'm blue in the face.
Focus on the winners.
What you sell is so, so, so important. What people are buying for free, like without your ads, like without advertising, which is why organic's really important too, because you can test a lot of products before you pay to promote them. That is what is going to make you money. Now, there is a caveat to this. So, as your brand gets bigger, you might have nuances on this. So there might be a time where when you look at all your data and you look at the big spenders with your brands, you'll be like, oh, that's odd. They bought that low value thing first. So we made a loss when they bought that, but then they bought 10 times. So we made loads of money from that one customer. So that gateway product, as you grow, you'll find those gateway products. And then it might make sense to advertise those because you know you'll make money later. I mean, totally different business model, but subscriptions are like that. It's very rare that subscriptions make money on the first box or whatever it is that they sell. It's always when they have like 3, 4, 5, 6 months of sales afterwards. That's when they make their money. And that does take a bit of education as well for new subscription businesses. They don't always understand that I want a 5 ROAS on this box. I'm like, you won't get that. I can guarantee, unless it's something completely unique and you have a huge market for it that is clambering for your box, you're not going to make a huge return on that first sale.
Sure.
It's a lifetime value of the customer that will make you the money.
Wow, interesting. Aggie, any other tips you can provide to brands?
I would say mindset is a huge thing when it comes to advertising. And I can usually tell a business's business stage by how they approach their advertising. So, rightly so. Like, startups are usually a bit more nervous. Maybe they've been burnt by agencies before. Maybe they've tried to run the ads themselves without training and lost all their money. So I would say you need to think of it as an investment. So you need about 3 months worth of ad spend to invest, to really test. You can't just do it for a week. You need to give it a good go. And then you can kind of scale from there. With the bigger brands, there are so many brands that kind of cap what they're willing to spend on their ads. The mindset around that is your ads should pay for themselves. So when you get to a certain point where they're profitable, and you should never run ads if they're not profitable, by the way, like we calculate what that means for each business we work with. So once your ads are generating a certain level of revenue for you, they will pay for themselves, plus they will give you a profit. So it doesn't actually matter how much you spend on the ads because you're going to be making money. Yeah. But some like accounting teams don't understand that. They freak when they see how much is being spent on the ads. Even, the testing phase can take a bit of time. So at the beginning you're thinking, oh, this is like really a lot of money to be investing in something we're not seeing an initial return for. You have to hold your nerve. It's like in the past, brands would spend thousands on a billboard on a motorway and you'd have no idea who's seen it, no idea what traction you got from it, and nothing. With digital advertising, you get information. So initially, you'll see who's actually interacting with the ads, like their demographics. You'll see the messaging they're responding to. You'll see what products they're buying or they're not buying. Everything is information that you iterate and you improve, and then like the results start happening. So it can take longer than people expect to really get the optimal results from the ads.
Amazing, Aggie. I mean, you're so knowledgeable and experienced and so passionate about the topic. I really enjoyed this episode a lot. So really appreciate your
thank you.
time.
I really could talk about this forever.
Yes, I feel I have like another probably millions of questions, but I want to respect also the time of our listeners and maybe just give us a quick answer. I mean, how people can find you and work with you.
Sure. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So you can find me at Aggie Meroni. Like, come and connect with me, introduce yourself in the comments or in my DMs. I'm always happy to have a chat. I'm also on Instagram at Whitebee Digital. And so, yeah, I'll give those details for the show notes as well.
Sure. Again, thank you for the time, Aggie. It was really amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. Your support means the world to us. If today's episode has been insightful for you, consider sharing it with someone who would also benefit. Even one share can make a big difference. Looking to elevate your e-commerce game? Discover Vimy, a multi-channel e-commerce platform that will transform your business with the power of shoppable video. Visit us at vimy.net to learn more. It's Vimy, VIMMI.net. Thank you for being part of our journey. Stay tuned for more invaluable insights in our next episode.